Okay, everybody, welcome to possibly the craziest day in the history of the internet. It has peaked, I hope, with this post from Elon Musk claiming that the reason why the Epstein files haven't been released yet by the Trump administration is because Trump is in them. A lot has happened today. I think everyone and their mother and their grandmother and their entire extended family is going to give a hot take today, including myself. But I do think there's a lot of variables we have to think through because this is a moment from which we cannot come back from. Regardless of why you're following this channel, if you're following this channel as a Tesla fan, Tesla investor, Elon fan, Elon investor, Trump fan, politics, technology, artificial intelligence, it does feel like the implications from this moment will have a lasting impacts for a really long time. At a high level, I think that for the foreseeable future, until if and when this gets quote unquote patched up, this is a terrible thing for Tesla investors. I think it's a good thing for Elon's quote unquote brand, and I'll explain why. I think this is a bad thing for the Trump administration, and I'll explain why. And I think this could be very good for the political landscape long term, but it could also be one of those moments where we kind of teeter-totter and then shit gets weird. And I'll try to frame what the hell happened today that kind of like ended up in this situation. If you've been following the story closely, you know that Elon was on Doge. His 130 days as a special government employee was up this month. Trump gave him a key to the White House as a thank you. But in between all those things, there were a lot of things that were either unsaid or said that pointed to a, let's say, a difficult breakup between the two, or a situation where Elon perhaps felt like Doge was sidestepped or not taken seriously. And the big reason why is with this BBB, this big beautiful bill, that doesn't really codify any of the Doge cuts at all. Doge said they found $160 billion. As of the latest, I think the big beautiful bill is trying to pass 9 billion cuts, et cetera, et cetera. But the reality of the matter is that this bill does nothing to cut the spending of the United States. It adds to the deficit, it adds to the debt, which is this insane fiscal situation we've been in as a country where we're at $36 trillion in debt. Each American owes like $100,000 or something. The interest on that debt matches the spending of the defense spending of the budget of the United States. So we pay about $1 trillion in defense. We're going to be paying about $1 trillion in interest on that debt per year. And so the idea behind Doge was come in, let's cut spending, let's figure out how to make government more efficient, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, that effort didn't really pan out, to be honest. At least not so far, but after today, it's definitely absolutely not going to pan out. It's pretty obvious for that. And so now it sort of climaxed to this point where Elon has been very vocal for the last couple of days about how much this big beautiful bill is not good. Famously, he said a bill can be either beautiful or big, but it can't be both. Sort of saying that, hey, it's insanely bloated. And him attacking this bill is sort of a affront to Trump, because Trump has been, it's literally his bill. It's the big, beautiful bill. It's his branding, right? So Elon being very vocal about why this bill is bad is in direct opposition to Trump. Now, the thing to remember here is that these two guys are some of, if not the most powerful men in the world. Trump is the president of the United States. Elon is the richest man in the world. They came together to defeat the Democrats, which they were very successful at. Big margin of victory in the 24 election. Most of the country moved right. But the reality is that the Republican Party, with the passing of this bill, to get it through, and there's this entire 2-3 month process, but basically this is not a done deal. They're going to go back and forth, they're going to make changes, and then eventually will land on Trump's desk sometime in July probably, or maybe August, who knows. And he'll sign off on whatever that big beautiful bill is. But the big sticking point here is spending. Elon has been very consistent about the spending of the United States back from 2021, even potentially earlier. There's a lot of different videos, a lot of different clips of him saying that the financial situation of the United States is a big deal. It's a problem. A large majority of Americans, at least ones that are aware of the problem, agree that this is a huge problem. We can't be paying the same amount of interest than we are in spending, or in defense, right? But now it's climaxed to a point where Elon is at a point where he is not backing down from this. Trump is at a point where he's not going to let Elon disparage his baby, his big beautiful bill. And so they were going at it on X like crazy today. Trump saying that he's disappointed in Elon, that the reason why he's acting up is because of the EV tax credits not being included in this bill. They're basically ending the $7,500 tax credit and some of the subsidies. Basically, Trump saying that Elon is going crazy, makes no sense. We were so good for him. We helped him with his cars, etc., etc. And now he's sort of lost his mind. On the opposite end, Elon is saying that Trump has been extremely grateful that he helped him win the election in 24 by funding his campaign to the tune of $300 million, close to anyway. And he also made a comment saying, Trump is going to be around for 3.5 years. Elon's going to be around for 40 plus, right? Basically saying like, hey, I'm here to fund political. America is such a fucking weird country. Basically saying Trump, like, you can say whatever you want. You're going to be out of office in 3.5 years. I am here to stay. I can, give to super PACs, give to politicians, et cetera, and I can derail your efforts in 2026 with your primary. Because if you don't get the House and the Senate on your side, right now the House and the Senate are both leaning Republican, but if Elon can muster enough of a political movement, then in theory that derails Trump's ability to get a majority in the House and the Senate, which will not allow him to get stuff done that he needs to get done from a policy perspective, right? Not only that, there was a poll that was posted on X today. It's not over yet. It has a ton of votes. Last time I checked, it has something over 800,000 votes, where Elon was polling his audience and asking if it was time for a legitimate third party to be founded in the United States. An overwhelming majority of his audience is voting that yes, there should be a third party instituted to actually align with the will of the people. The will of the people being, from his perspective, that this bill needs to be taken apart and it needs to actually try to cut the deficit instead of adding trillions of dollars to the debt and the deficit. Without a shadow of a doubt, if you're a Tesla investor, which I know a lot of you are, the math you're probably doing in your head right now is this the end of Elon Musk and his ability to run companies? Has he made too big of an enemy? What's the likelihood that Trump is going to, let's say, create a political environment or a regulatory environment that was similar to the one that Elon had to face with the Democrats, right? Where the Democrats passed things like the IRA, the EV tax bill, they passed things like, the battery subsidies, which obviously helps his companies. The Model Y wasn't included to begin with, and there had to be a grassroots movement to get them started. But there were also lawfare against SpaceX. There was also lawfare against Tesla. There was lawfare against Elon Musk, the person. There were public attacks and public sort of like poo-pooing of Elon Musk, the individual, evil billionaire, et cetera, et cetera. He had an entire party apparatus that was going against him because he was a billionaire, essentially, right? And, that's why he landed with Trump. Now, Elon said, I don't have a big enough enemy. I need two big enemies. I need the party that I've pissed off, and I've attacked that party, the Democrats, and what they stood for, and I've alienated a percentage of those people from my products, right? I'm going to do the same exact thing to the right side of the political. I'm just going to piss off both sides equally. I'm going to call one side of the political spectrum people that hate democracy, and they hate freedom of speech. This guy almost fucking hit me, et cetera, et cetera. And on the right side of the political spectrum, this is now run by a person that the reason why he's not releasing the Epstein files is because he's on them, which implicates him in some sort of, insane conspiracy, potentially, allegedly, right? As an investor in the company, this is like nothing good has happened. That's sorry to say. I mean, it's not even sorry to say. It's just a factual statement. Nothing good has happened that is in any way beneficial for the story of Tesla. The only way the company, quote unquote, survives this moment is if Tesla delivers on the promise of having a superior product versus everybody else with the robotaxi, et cetera, et cetera. The only way this becomes a really big issue is if there are legitimate walls that are put up that do not allow Elon's ability to run his businesses in the country, right? Oh, we're going to slow down your approval for robotaxi. We're going to slow down your approval for selling product. Now, the opposite side of that is, okay, that seems like we live in a country that, like, one doesn't operate in that way, right? The unfortunate reality is in some pockets, it has been proven to be run that way. And could the Trump administration operate in the same exact manner? The GOP decided to pull EV credits while retaining subsidies for oil and gas and, hydrocarbons and all these other things, right? I'm sure they're just as likely to do that as the Democrat Party. That's the reality of the situation, right? And so if you're somebody who's an investor, you have to look at the total landscape, look at it honestly, and ask yourself, what are the true potential long-term cons of this event? What are the black swan events of this thing happening, right? Could this lead to Elon, going to jail for whatever reason, right? Everything has to be open now and analyzed, right? So the next 48, 72 hours, that's what I would encourage every single investor to do. Go back, retest your thesis, figure out what the fuck's going on, think about all the externalities, think about all the different things that could happen from this, right? But also weigh with the positives. So what are some of the positives here? From a brand perspective for Elon, and this is a biased take, so I encourage you, again, this is part of your study. You have to do this. This is the homework you gotta do, okay? You gotta watch and read everything under the sun as it pertains to what just has happened, especially from credible sources. From my perspective, this is a very principled move by Elon, an extremely principled move by Elon. Why? The silent majority of this country, which is proven in data, metrics like 17% approval rating for Congress, primarily stemming from the Congress's ability to pass a bill that is not filled with garbage and is not filled with stuff that is not aligned with the will of the people, right? And the fact that we have a $36 trillion debt issue and growing, especially with this big, beautiful bill, putting a stake in the sand and saying, enough is enough. I don't care if I gave you $300 billion to win the election, and I don't care if I'm getting some sort of favor or benefit from this administration, whatever that may mean. I'm going to burn the bridge and say the most important thing here is to get the fiscal responsibility of the country finally honed in and getting Congress to stop being idiots. That is a phenomenal thing to die on your sword with. Okay. And as a citizen of the United States, I am supremely happy for Elon to put that stake in the ground. Do you have to go and say that Donald Trump is on the Epstein files? No, you do not have to say that, okay? You could have very well continued to deliver this message and not say that, and you would essentially separate yourself from how Trump likes to do these fights, which is get in the mud, right? It's like Trump likes to get dirty, right? And that's his entire persona. It's like he likes to get dirty. He likes to sling mud and shit at his opponents, right? Elon has decided that he wants to take that on with Trump. Okay, so now you have two people going up against each other that have decided to roll in the mud and sling shit at each other. Another huge winner in this is X. This is probably going to be top 3 greatest engagement day of all time on X, easily, okay? Now, this also hurts Trump's chances in the midterms, right? The reason why is because, without a shadow of a doubt, Trump's ability to win in 2024 was a massive move away from the left. And you can see this across every state political metrics, right? The reason why that happened is because they're not new Republicans that were born or came of age. It was people that were former Democrats like myself and independents that voted for Trump instead of Kamala, okay? When you have a voice as large as Elon's that is harping on a very accurate thing that is wrong with our country, which is the deficit, and a very accurate thing that is wrong, which is Congress, and their inability to hone in spending, this is going to win you a massive amount of support. I don't know how long it's going to last. But without a shadow of a doubt, all this quote-unquote brand damage from Elon, right, which is going to get hurt on the right side of the spectrum now, right? Now, those people on let's say on the top 20% fervent supporters of MAGA specifically, they're going to be quite pissed off. But if we look at those poll results from Elon about starting a third party, those are very telling, because it says that even though his support and his flip was to MAGA, a huge majority of his followers, people that find him appealing, even though he has been hardcore MAGA, right, for the last 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months, however long it's been, a huge majority of those people would like to disassociate from either the Democrat or the Republican Party. This opens up a gigantic forcing function for a third party to come in and completely wreak havoc on the Republican Party to win votes in the midterms, and especially to win votes in 2028. A third party will hurt the Republicans more than it will hurt the Democrats, without a shadow of a doubt, because the Republicans were dependent on the Democrats to win the election by former Democrats switching sides. If those people are now going to the independent party, right, the Democrats by default will gain more votes, and you could open up a situation where if, like, let's say this third party does not win an election in whatever sort of thing they're running on, which is more likely than not, way more likely than not based on historical precedent, the Democrats are going to start winning seats. The Democrats are going to start winning seats in the House and the Senate, and they're going to potentially win the presidency in 2028. The best case scenario for what Elon's doing, talking about best, like 5% chance or less of this happening, is that this watershed moment legitimately gives birth to a third-party movement that wins. And if you follow this channel, you know, for the longest time, even though I voted for Trump, even though I've been supportive of Trump in a lot of different ways, I've been an even bigger proponent of a legitimate third party that comes in and gets rid of this insane two-party system that we have that optimizes for the worst possible outcome in a compromise. And this big, beautiful bill is a perfect example of this. We do not get good outcomes from having a two-party system that doesn't prioritize the will of the people. And so the best case scenario here is that Elon, with his billionaire friends, okay, they dump a ton of money into a third party, into a third political movement that is rooted in actual common sense, in actual fiscal responsibility, and in actual competence. That's the true best case scenario from this thing. It's going to take a massive amount of time for this to play out, if that is the truth. If that is the actual thing that will happen. Again, 5%, right? But those poll results shouldn't be taken lightly. Another thing that could very well happen is that Elon and Trump, this is politics, things get crazy. I want to say sorry to, the president for acting up. He's going to lose Democrats again because he's going to, here he goes, kissing ass, right? That could very well happen. What's not going to happen is Trump's going to come out and apologize to Elon or say, you know what, Elon, you were right. We should have been more aggressive with a big, beautiful bill. That ain't happening. There's literally a 0% chance of that happening. That ain't happening, right? So those two other things could also happen, right? And now the other thing that could also be happening here, this one is like a deep cut, like definitely extremely unlikely, but I do wonder how much of this is playing into this. Besides Elon having a historical precedent of having principled moves, far from perfect, right? He does make a lot of mistakes, sometimes very big ones. Would Elon be going at the president of the United States the way that he is, which he has before? Like he's gone against Biden, right? It's like Trump is the president, he's now going against Trump. But Trump is a larger than life figure, right? He's like this person who people view as like, transcendent. How confident are you in Robotaxi right now? How confident are you in FSD that you're willing to take this undeniable hit to the company? You see it in the stock, down 15% from the last time I checked. Weirdly, it went up after he said Trump is on the Epstein files, because the market's probably viewing that as a black swan event for the Trump administration, right? Which gives a boost to Elon, because Elon would then have another principled sort of stance here. And the opposite side of the political spectrum would champion that and turn him into a hero. I don't know if Elon would say this if he didn't feel confident that his businesses had an undeniable path towards success. These risks feel insane. And the only way you would take those risks is if you felt like you had a decent probability for success. So we're talking about this with the guy that started SpaceX and Tesla on a shoestring budget, quote unquote, and almost went bankrupt multiple times with both ventures at the same time. So this guy doesn't seem to mind risk in the same way that we mind risk. That goes without saying. But the timing of it is interesting. The Trump administration could very easily slow roll the regulation. Elon will take it to the courts, right? And will say, what? This slow rolling of regulations is illegal. And he would leverage the court system to get that done. That's the wonderful thing about the United States. We have separation of powers, but it will present a risk, for sure, right? It will present a risk. So, I don't even know if this 25-minute, 26-minute video is even going to be like relevant once I post it, because everything is moving so freaking fast. So if I missed something, I'm sorry. The Epstein thing felt like the peak. okay? And yeah, crazy day. If you're new to the channel, I've been following the Tesla story since 2012. I've been a Tesla investor since 2012. I am a pro-Elon person. I am biased towards Elon. I voted for Trump to try and move the country towards a better outcome within the confines of a two-party system when it became apparent to me that a viable third-party solution was unrealistic, especially with RFK dropping out of the race, which to me was a huge bummer. But I felt like I was doing the best thing for the country from my own interests, which was, I think the country is better off with Trump than Kamala, because I felt the Democrats were showing authoritarian tendencies, which was extremely uncomfortable. Trump has his weaknesses for sure, but I thought it was the good outcome. But without a doubt, if this turns out to give a pathway to a political system that actually values the real problems facing this country, like the debt, like our health. 40% of Americans are obese. This is a terrible thing to get shit done, literally, because people are unhealthy. And that's because of our food system in a lot of different ways. It's because of our health education. Anxiety and depression, massive problem. Our public education specifically has been a mess, has been a disaster. And I could go on and on with all these different metrics that we have as a country that have been going the wrong way for a really long time. To Trump's credit, he is tackling the revitalization of manufacturing, building stuff in the country, right? Increasing tax income so that we can pay down the debt, and you just delete that with this big, beautiful bill. So that's obviously, you can see that I'm aligned with Elon on this case, right? This shouldn't be a surprise. But if this gives birth to a legitimate third party that either displaces the Democrat Party or displaces the Republican Party, or becomes a legitimate third party that now we have an option for, and we can start getting people in Congress, in the House and the Senate that have these values embedded in them, and they are uncompromising in executing against those values, then that is the best possible outcome for this country. And here's the crazy thing. Most people agree with me. Like, without a shadow of a doubt, most people agree with me. 60, 70, 80% of the country agrees with me. The problem is that, it's always like, well, it's unrealistic because the system is the system. If a third party comes in, the other party will win. If a third party comes in, it's just not good because then you're going to have a mess of a system and nothing is going to get done, etc., etc. But the opposite, the other side of that is that we end up with this situation, which is we have a Congress that still does bullshit, okay? That's just a fact. That's just the monster that is Washington will continue on. And for those like myself who voted for Trump to at least increase the chances of a hammer, of a true, real hammer to the politics of this country, what Elon is doing, from my perspective, beautiful. But if you're a Tesla investor, this is a huge, huge, huge risk. Gigantic risk. And so, like I said before, do your homework. None of this is financial investment advice, as always. It's a commentary from a rando on the internet, but it's impossible to stay quiet, right? Because this has, in my opinion, massive long-term implications, a true watershed moment in the political landscape of the United States. And I can't wait to see how this is all going to be different in 24 hours. I hope this was valuable. Thank you very much for riding with me. By the way, the Cybertruck was on FSD the whole time, full self-driving. Shout out Tesla and all the engineers and AI folks. All right, and we'll see what happens. Bye.